I'm live and direct from Network 23. All I need now is a guest spot from Max Headroom, and we're all set. But anyways, I'm just checking to see if I'm live and direct from Network 23, and sure looks like I am live. So make sure that that's muted, so I don't get lots of interference or stuff like that. So I'm going to give a few moments for my viewers to come online to go ahead and listen to my meaningless drivel. But today's topic is actually inspired by an email chain I just received the last couple of days. And it reminded me about something in the industry that has always bothered me, and there's really no solution to it, but it really is something having to do with, rich people. And why do rich people constantly get articles written about them, while people who are not rich, we have to fight to get people to notice, notice me, senpai. Hi, Blitter. Nice to see ya. Hopefully they're treating you well at your place of work. Of course, I won't say it because it's not my place to say. Let's see, we got here now 3 viewers. A Blitter writes, "This is why I'm not on the Forbes 30 under 30. Yep, actually, Forbes factors in here. It really does. Okay, well, I think I've waited enough, because those of you who come in late can always rewatch on YouTube and so forth at the beginning of the stream. But welcome to Burgertime, October 10th, 2022. My brain's already still saying 19, despite the fact that the 1900s have disappeared over 22 years. Oh, I'm old. But the topic today is paid self-promotion. And where I'm bringing this up is this. Recently, I just got an email from a company that does PR. And the way they started off the entire email, because this is totally unsolicited, I did not ask them to contact me, or I didn't go to any website saying, here's my email, blah, blah, blah. This just came out of the blue. And it reads, and I'm going to read the email. "Hey, Rebecca, we're looking to partner up with entrepreneurs pioneering the game industry who are interested in being featured in publications like Forbes and USA Today. We're constantly getting clients published and have an open invite to bring these publications story ideas. Would you be interested in PR like that? Reply with your number," i.e. phone number, "and the best time to call so we can get started." And, of course, they sign their name and their company, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, I've known about this kind of stuff before, but if you're more naive or new to the industry, you'd think, oh, my goodness, somebody wants to have me write articles for Forbes or USA Today, and they're already saying that I'm an entrepreneur. But this is a scam, okay? This is a flat-out scam. Because while, yes, they will get you articles written in Forbes or even major newspapers or USA Today, it's because you pay for it. Because I replied to them saying, and I will go back to this thing here. So it's like, I replied and I said, "Sure, but I do have to ask, is there a cost attached to this?" Because you notice in their initial sales pitch, they didn't mention anywhere that this is not a free service or that they're actually interested in my input. It's really, hey, if you give us money, then we will pay newspapers or magazines or stuff to run your article, and it technically is an ad. So, of course, they finally replied, and it stated, "Thanks for the prompt response, Becky. Happy to give you some more info. To give you a general idea, most of our opportunities are in the $1,000 to $5,000 range. Pricing will vary based on the media package and placement. Our company, I'm not going to say it, is a PR firm with connections to most media outlets. I'll be happy to break this down for you if you feel the investment would make sense when you have some time, chat for it, and then there's a calendar link and a phone number and stuff like that. And at that point, I then responded finally saying, sorry, I'm not interested in buying articles about myself. Now, this goes to what I've noticed in the industry. And this is not the gaming industry at centered. This is the entire PR industry. Like, you've seen people like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. They are already very well famous because of the fact that they run major multinational corporations. But every now and then, like, there's a magazine here in Dallas that's called Dallas Entrepreneurs. And then they have this award ceremony saying 30 Dallas entrepreneurs, and they all get the Entrepreneur of the Year award. And in LA, where I was from, there was like an Orange County Entrepreneur magazine, and they give out awards and so forth. And then, of course, you get the award, you put it on, and you get a plaque, you put it on your wall, so you'd see people who are trying to climb up the ladder of C-level executives, in which they've got all these awards saying, you know, best of show, this is that, you know, top 30 over 30, you know, 30 under 30 or stuff like that. Even, like, remember you heard the Forbes 400, where they look at the top 400 entrepreneurs or the top 400 richest people? And having your name on that list gives you a lot of cachet. And there was once a former president who was so dedicated or so wanting to get on that list that he went ahead and called as somebody else and pretended to be a reporter and claimed that this person had a lot more money than they really did, so they can be put on this list. Well, that's not too far off from these other magazines and organizations, because like Orange County Entrepreneurs or Dallas Tech Enterprises or stuff like that, nobody reads those magazines. I've never heard of them, and I've lived in Dallas for several years now, and of course I've lived in Southern California for like about 40 some odd years, because, you know, that's my home plate, that's my homies. Yet I found out some friends of mine in the tech industry were trying to build up some credibility for their company, and they said that, hey, they won an award for best technological innovation for their product, and they got an award. They've never shipped the product. Even to this day, it has not shipped. So how in the world did this magazine even know about them to then check them out for criteria to determine whether or not they were a tech innovation? Well, that's because you pay for it. You go now. I get emails all the time. The most notorious was women in what's it called? Who's Who? Something like a Who's Who manual and so forth, saying like, here are all the entrepreneurs, here are all the CEOs, here are all the tech directors and so forth. And we're making a Who's Who specifically about women. But of course, we need your headshot, we need a small bio, and we need like $1,000. And I'm like, if you're making a book about people, then why do you need money from me? Don't you make money from the book? Don't you make money from other sources? It's essentially like the Guinness Book of World Records doesn't go around asking people to pay to have, you know, the awards done, unless, of course, it's something so esoteric and wacky, then yeah, you have to pay for their person to verify, sit there and watch it. But, you know, that's a world record. But here, these tech journals and these organizations are nothing more than a group of people patting themselves on the back for a job well done, just so they could put an award on the shelf, which, when you really think about it, is totally meaningless. Absolutely meaningless. I mean, I would consider something that's a tech innovation if it's been looked at by an independent group. They look at all the technology, verify it, go to a lab, check it out, etc. They ask no money. In fact, like Consumer Reports, that's one reason why they have my respect. they actually use their own money to buy the product, so they can't say that they were biased by being given free product. And then once they check everything else out to see which is the best, then they put that out on their top 10 list. Whereas other places, like there's certain websites, there's certain magazines and so forth where they have a top 10, and then you come to find out that the reason products are on the top 10 was because they gave free samples of the product, and companies that says, well, if you want our XYZ video card, you got to pay for it like everyone else. So, oh, well, if you're not going to give us your XYZ video card, then you're not going to be in the top 10 XYZ video cards for 2022. And so, of course, as a consumer, if you're not onto these kind of things, you're going to see a top 10. You're going to wonder, like, hey, where's XYZ Corp? Why are they not on the top 10? When you have this Samurai Ichiban video card, that's the #1 rated card in this list, and it's like, I've never heard of them. Same goes for like, people who consider themselves influencers or up-and-coming entrepreneurs and so forth, in which they have all these awards saying that they're the top CEO and so forth, and you ask, what have they actually done? Well, like for me, I'm famous because I won a video game tournament 42 years ago today. Or was it tomorrow? I don't remember, but I know it was around the first or second, no, it was the second week of October. I was in Los Angeles at the Topanga Canyon Plaza 42 years ago, almost to the day, where I then won that tournament, and then 4 weeks later, I won the Nationals, making me the first video game champion. Okay, crown me. I've got my stats. I've got my cred. But for some people who basically, the only thing that they've got is a very large bank account. And they could just buy cred, in which they say, hey, magazine, if I run some ads for my company and I pay you to, nominate myself for being considered the top 30 CEOs of Dallas, will you then put me in the running? And of course, only like 30 people enter, so of course you're in the top 30. And then you get your useless award, so then when people come to your company to say, hey, I'm interested in investing into, Beelzebub Corp. And, oh, so you're the CEO of Beelzebub Corp, and I see on your wall that you are the top entrepreneur of Dallas. And over here, I see what you've got, the top entrepreneur of Texas. And over here, you're on the who's who of women, where all of those awards are made up. And they're basically like best description is that this is a diploma mill, in which, you getting all these diplomas saying that you are graduated cum laude with wacko science or something like that, which you did nothing to earn it other than write a check. And that kind of burns me a little bit, because I see people who are interested in investing in companies. Like right now, Old School is on a renaissance, which are about ready to release some products and so forth, despite the fact that we got our butt kicked because of the Stadia thing last week. That hurt. But it would be nice if I got together some investors or so forth who would then help put some money in the company so I can hire a bunch more people and grow it out so I can actually get more games out on a faster schedule, because, fast, cheap, good, pick two. But the case here is that when the investor comes in who knows nothing about your business, they only know about, if I invest money, I expect some money out. But if they see on the wall saying, I'm a top CEO, I'm an entrepreneur of the year, or something like that, then they think, ooh, this is the entrepreneur of the year. I should be able to invest money in this company, where I say, I make good stuff. It's like, but that's not sexy. That's not, you don't have awards on the wall. So it's like, yeah, I got this award of Space Invaders, but that's not a CEO. That's not, entrepreneur of the week or whatever it is. It's a fake diploma. I mean, literally, that's what it is. And, and the fact that, just recently I got yet another solicitation, as soon as I saw the first solicitation, I knew that they weren't actually contacting, because if it was Forbes, they would contact me directly. How do I know this? Because 2 weeks ago, Stadia imploded, and immediately I got contacted by about 24 different reporters from Forbes, Wall Street Journal, from Ars Technica, IGN, etc. And they all contacted me either through Twitter, or they just got my email address, which is like, duh, Google my name, my email address shows up. Rocket science. And then I had interviews. I must have been on Skype and Zoom nonstop for like 3 days, as people had me tell the same story over and over again. So it's like, yeah, I now have these contact lists that if I actually wanted to have an article run on Forbes, I could probably get in there and make the inroads and go in there on my own merits. Whereas these people are almost certainly doing it the back door, which is saying, we're going to run an old school ad in Forbes, the magazine, and in exchange for running the ad, we want to run a bio story of Rebecca that's going to be one or like half page or something, saying how here's her life story bio, etc., which when you really look at it is utterly meaningless. But it means that people who then read Forbes say, ooh, Rebecca Heinemann, I remember she wants investment in her company. Maybe I should give her a call, because if she's in Forbes, then obviously she's the woman I should talk to. Even though none of it actually means that or whoever it is that paid for it, is doing the work. And therein is always the fun part. I'm going to go ahead and read some of the chat here on Twitch, because really I pretty much said my piece about this. So I'm going to go, Chris Fratz writes, this sounds sketchy. Yep, that's the whole reason why I'm even here, is just pointing out my chain of thought about how sketchy it is for companies that go around, if you pay them, they will just give you a phony baloney award, or make articles that are kind of meaningless. Like, have you ever opened a Forbes and read, like, up and coming such and such? There is a high probability, that this is a paid article, instead of, somebody who works at Forbes as a reporter actually says, ooh, I'm going to go check out all these CEOs. And I said, this person actually has done things. A person who has really relied on this kind of crud is like Elizabeth Holmes of Theranos. I mean, she was on numerous magazine covers and so forth, and her company hasn't produced anything. And you ask yourself, how did she do this? Well, that's because she spent several $100,000 on these types of firms, whose job it was just to write meaningless bios on her, which then got people to say, ooh, she's on the magazine cover, therefore she knows what she's doing. Where do I sign the check? Or who do I make the check out to? But back to, Abe Litter writes, I also have a really great business opportunity you might be interested in. Do you have time to chat about knives? I'm going to pause there and just move on. Glitch Tart writes, we have the Orlando Tech Journal. They just cover the people that go to the meetups. Pretty much. And of course, if you want to nominate yourself, there's always a little fee. I mean, anytime you see a fee to nominate someone, it's kind of sketchy. Abe Litter writes, world record for most money spent on a silly award. That's an interesting award. Abe Litter writes, influencers do this a lot to try to scam folks out of free stuff. There's that. Please send me a free key for your upcoming game. I'll stream it on my hundreds of followers. It's a good deal, I promise. That brings up a different topic. Thank you very much, Abe Litter, for reminding me. We actually have several games up on Steam. There's Dog Football, there's Descent, Descent 1 and 2, there's Battle Chess Game of Kings, and I do get an email at least once a week from some streamer I have never heard of, who says, hey, can you give me like 5 or 6 keys so I can give them away on my stream so that I can play your game, and I'll go ahead and talk about it, and then I'll give away some keys, and I'll help promote your game. I'm going to go ahead and file this under for exposure, because the whole thing is that the person wants to build up their following by giving away free stuff. I mean, there are numerous influencers and YouTubers who that's what they do. Examples like Mr. Beast. His whole thing is he makes these giant contests and stuff, and people win actual real cash money, but because this is a large-scale event, he gets millions of views. So he actually can afford it because he makes enough money off YouTube and stuff and merch that he can actually give away the money. So he's got an enterprise. But when you have somebody who's running out of his basement, who's only got like 10 followers and stuff and wants to build up some cred, well, then you got to put some skin in the game and buy 10 copies of the game and then go ahead and just review it, because, you know, I would appreciate if somebody would just review Battle Chess without me giving them a key, because then I know they're going to give me an honest review. If I deserve to be roasted over the coals, fine. But let's look at it from a different point of view. Let's say you are an influencer who's trying to build their cred by getting free keys. Well, you're not going to do bad reviews on anybody who gives you a free key. Like if I gave you a key to Battle Chess for free for you to review it, you're already biased in that you want to do a good review, because then if this person gives a good review, then I'm more inclined to give them a free key for Astro Rock or for Luxor Evolved or for something else. Whereas if I give a key to somebody who roasts my game, then I'm kind of gun-shy of giving a person a key for another one of my games. But if the person just simply buys the game outright and then does it, well, nothing I can do about it, and maybe the criticism's warranted. But it goes back to, if someone gives you stuff, then be very wary of their reviews, because it tends to be biased in favor of whoever gave them the free goods. Glitchheart writes, I don't trust those 30 under X lists. They seem to cover only the popular Twitter people and not those actually accomplishing things. That's true. Abe Litter writes, hey Becky, send me a free key for Luxor Evolve. I have a channel following by top Stadia fans, and it's definitely going to get you sales after I stream it there. Oh yeah, I'm going to get all of the 0 sales on Stadia from the 0 accounts that I can actually get money from, because the account right now is zeroed out. Awesome. Chris Franz writes, honestly, whenever I think of spam stuff and scammy things, my mind immediately goes to Tron 2.0, where at the start of the Net City level had 3 spam ads pop up the text console area of your screen. It made me die of laughter. Okay. Let's see. A Blitter, did they pay you for your stories? What Blitter was referring to earlier in my talk, I said that a bunch of reporters contacted me to ask me the story of what happened with Stadia, at least from my point of view. I mean, I don't work for Google. I never worked for Google. All I can say is that as a developer, blah, blah, blah. And Abler asked, did they pay me? And the answer is no. They contacted me. They said, are you willing to talk? Then they asked, are you willing to be on the record? And then at that point, here's a times that we can Zoom. And I said, here's a time. And next thing I know, I was on there. But I didn't get paid. And the trouble is, again, is if someone gets paid, it tends to bias them. So be very careful about that. Abe Litter, an old school ad and a Bio Rebecca. Sounds like a great idea. Yeah, whatever. El Nero Diablo says, morning, Becky. Morning, Nero Diablo. Burn Ya Bad writes, favorite burger establishment ever. Go. Favorite burger establishment. I love Red Robin, the bonsai burger. There you go. That's my opinion of it. Number 2 would probably be Rodeo Goat, which is a local chain here, because they have some really good burgers, and they also change things around. Let's see here. S.H. Dunn writes, even worse, working for a publisher. They don't even pay for publication. They just try to be guest authors. So effectively, they take your money and keep it all themselves. Yep, there's that. It depends on the publisher. I mean, I don't know what your context is in there working for a publisher, because generally what a publisher does is they pay a developer to finish the game or do the game, period. But most of the time they have a proof of concept, they've got a game halfway done, the publisher gives them money to finish the game, and then at that point the publisher then takes a cut and takes the game out to market. The issue is that the money the publisher's coughing up means it's a risk, because if the game fails, the publisher might as well just take that money and toss it in the fire. And publishers don't like taking money and tossing it into a fire. Now, if you had a completely finished game in which the publisher don't put in no money whatsoever, then hopefully what the publisher does, like that's what we do, is that we actually spend money on the advertising, getting it out there, doing the videos, doing all the support stuff, and tech support. Tech support has a value. And in that case, they get a small cut, where the developer gets this much and the publisher gets that much, because it's basically paying for the publisher's stuff to do, whereas the developer gets the money needed to recoup all their investment, and then hopefully make a sequel or make something new. Who knows? But yeah, there are publishers out there that basically is, oh, you have a game that's 90% complete. We will pay you a couple of $1,000s to finish it, but now we own everything. All ours. Mine. I've worked with companies that are like that, and if you do a development deal with a publisher, get a frickin' lawyer. All right, get a lawyer. Alex0670 writes, "You just explained IGN, LOL." Yeah. Abe Litter writes, "Fortunately, Steam Tag reviews from folks who got the game for free." Yeah, that's the point. Is that, okay, what was going on about giving out keys for free for reviewers? Well, now Steam is, if somebody reviews a game, it will actually mark it saying they got the game for free or they paid for it. I trust the reviews of someone who paid for the game. Anything else is basically, they're biased, either for or against. Don't know which, don't care. And at that point, you get an idea of whether or not you want to spend your money on this. Glitchchart writes, "Many people get review keys and turn around and sell them on G2A." That is true. G2A is a website in which people get Steam keys, usually because they bought something on Humble Bundle and they got games that they don't really want. They put them on G2A, which then they go ahead and sell them. Now, the keys are legit. Or they're keys, like I said earlier, an influencer would say, a YouTuber would say, "Hey, can you give me like 10 keys? One key I'm going to use to play Battle Chess and show it, and the other 9 I'm going to give away on my store." It's entirely possible. They may give away like 1 or 2 on their stream, and the other 7 they put on G2A and make some money. Usually like $5 a key, but hey, it's still... it's now sales that I'll never get from somebody who may want to buy my game, especially during the Steam summer or winter sale. Let's see. Steam can tell, too, the key comes from the dev. That is true. Because as a Steam developer, this is something I can tell you. When you create the game and post it on Steam, I can actually ask Steam, through my publisher account, to generate keys for a game. And when I generate these keys, the intent of the keys is to give them away to all the employees, give them away to interested parties, and in some cases, give them away to certain reviewers. But generally, you give them to friends and family and stuff like that. But any keys generated in this fashion are marked as freebies, because no one paid any money for these keys. They were just generated out of nowhere. So if you were to buy the game through the store, of course it generates a key for you, but because it goes through a different mechanism, it knows that cash money was transferred from person to person, and then it says, if you redeem this key and buy this game, then if you do a Steam review, you get some cred. Chris Fratz writes, "Yeah, but YouTube video reviews are different, assuming they choose to disclose whether they got a key." True. Shogun Ka William Ka. "I remember Star Wars skin of Battle Chess." I don't remember. I know that there was a company that did a Battle Chess using Star Wars characters, but it wasn't done by Interplay. It was done by, I think, Software 2 Works, I think it was, but I may be wrong. But I do know that there was a Star Wars Battle Chess, but we had no involvement with it. El Nero writes, "For reference, I'm fine with being called Nero or Diablo. That's what most folks shorten my name when chatting on my screen anyways." Okay, I'll just call you Diablo because that sounds wicked. S.H. Don writes, "Working for Trade Magazine publisher, not a video game publisher." Let's see here. Now, What should we look forward to that can be said? Don't know the context of the question. If you're talking about what's coming out from old school, well, it's going to be Luxor Evolved and Astro Rock. Those are two games that we are talking about, and they're coming out real soon. Of course, the Luxor Evolved will not be coming out on Stadia, so that's off the table. Umlamu writes, I've seen a lot of video game companies and VCs be advertised in NFTs. I think to myself that NFTs really are enticing for companies. Do they get a large amounts of money from it? NFTs means nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's a buzzword. It's the equivalent of those fake awards or fake diplomas. Being an NFT has no context. It's just simply a buzzword to get people to believe that you own something that's digital. Because all an NFT really is a digital receipt. It just says Bitcoin or Ethereum or something of value changed hands, and that it's got a URL to whatever it is it says that's attached to this receipt. But the only thing in that record is a URL, which is, like nftpalooza.com/picture/11625.gif. And then you load it up and you can see a GIF. But the trouble is, as long as that web server is working, you can still click on it and see your GIF. But as soon as that website goes down for any reason, like, bankruptcy, then your digital purchase disappears. So did you actually buy anything? And therein is NFTs. It's just, like going to play Diablo or Fortnite or Overwatch and you buy stuff in-game. As long as the game still exists, you got your stuff. But the moment they shut down the servers, well then, poof! And NFTs are trying to say that because it's open source or stuff like that, then it survives the company that created it. And I can tell you right now, that's not the trick. That's not the case. Let's see here. Now go back to what I was saying is a lot of video game companies, VCs advertise and invest. Okay. If you see a video game touting NFTs, it's a cash grab, doesn't help the game at all. Agreed. Ableter generally comes from bigger companies, publishers. Indie devs by and large are smarter than that. Well, I know we're smarter than that. We're not doing NFTs in any shape or form because it's like, if you want DLC, great. We'll give you some DLC. You'll give you digital goods and so forth. But we're not going to put it on some open blockchain, stuff like that eats up electricity like crazy. It's just, we have an SQL database and it's just going to say, hey, such and such bought such and such connected. Or just use Valve's system. And there you go. Ableter says, generate free keys for me, Becky. Well, actually, since I know Ableter personally, I can do that for him. But not for anybody else, because Ableter is a personal friend of mine. So I'm going to give you a little disclaimer here. Ableter writes, joke, I have more than enough video games. Never. You got a hum background sound. I think I know what the hum is. It's probably the fiber optic thing in there. I'll do some work on fixing it up. Software Toolworks, like that's for the Battle Chest Star Wars. NFTs stay that someone burned down to force to sell. Soft G GIF, real estate on the moon has more value. NFTs meaningless, like wow, killer. TF2 killer, yeah. Hearing someone say GIF like that made me realize I actually quite like it. Yes, choosy developers choose GIF. Well, I do support GIF, and the guy who created GIF says it's pronounced GIF, so the voice of God has spoken, so it's GIF. Jiffy Lube. Let's see here. Had someone from Smashverse reach out to me about a job. Told them to get lost with their NFT junk. And Neon Rise, wait, did you design Descent and Descent 2? I did not design it, but I did work on it. If you want to go for the designers of Descent and Descent 2 from Interplay, that would be Matt Toshlong and Mike Kulas. They're the ones who really created the game. I just simply worked on network code and optimizations of the video blitter and so forth when the game was being prepped at Interplay to be changed from the game. I think it was called Inferno. That was its original name to Descent. And let's see, Glitchheart writes, it's a Vulcan GIF. And Neon Resident writes, oh yeah, that's cool. I played the game until I wore out the disc. Yeah, I actually have on my bookcase there, I actually have the Descent novels, as well as, the whole source repository and everything we needed to create the game in the first place. And I have a couple of box copies of it, too, that have been sealed since 1995. Yeah, because that was something I was posting earlier, where I got a bunch of new boxes of games. In fact, here's one I posted, kind of recently, that I found a bunch of boxes of boxed games. And like in this one, I have a boxed Aliens vs. Predator for Mac. And then this one is Sacrifice for Mac. And let's see, this is Giants, Mac version. And because this box actually is a bunch of Mac Play stuff that I worked on. In fact, I worked on almost all these games. Here's Soldier of Fortune. And let's see, here's now Max Payne. I have a copy of, but I did not work on this. I had nothing to do with Max Payne. And then there's the Doom song. But I've got like more boxes of these. I actually found it's now 45 boxes like this. So I have to still go through the wall, organize them, and then I don't have any more room in this room for shelves, but I got to go to some of the other rooms and have plenty of places to put up my wares and so forth. Let's see. Where are the cats? Glitchheart asks, and it says, I see one in the lower left. Yeah, that would have to be Rascal, because Agatha's actually sitting here. Oh yeah, Rascal's on the floor over here. I don't know if you could see him. See, there he is. I'm going to point to him. This is, that's Rascal, who's just dead to the world. This thing I'm pointing to is my Stadia dev kit, which will now be gathering dust. And of course, down here is Agatha, who's just sitting there going like, what? Say what? 3D Odin was Max Payne. I'll give you that. Oh my god, the nostalgia. And a built for Mac OS sticker on it. Do I see Halo in that box? Yes, Halo's in the box. Let me pull it out here. Mac version of Halo. Boxed. Yes, I've got some good wares. Now, again, I did not work on Halo, so can take no credit on that other than back in the day, I went ahead and picked up a copy and put it in the box. Let's see. A lot of money went to games that are problems with current clock CPUs. Oh, Sacrifice. Want to try? It was a weird game. Kitties, tech support. How were you involved in rock and roll racing for the Super Nintendo? Oh, I can answer that one. I did the sound driver, and I did the original code base for it. I should do a Burgertime based only on rock and roll racing and its predecessors, because the history was I did a port of a game called Racing Destruction Set from the Commodore 64 to the Atari 800. And that was done early in Interplay's life, like 85, 86. It was one of those things where we needed some money for Interplay because we were constantly running out of money. So they rented me out to Electronic Arts. I took the code, ported it over to the Atari, got it up and running, sent it out, shipped, we got paid. Now, years later, there was a new machine called the Super Nintendo. And we wanted to do a game for the Super Nintendo, and we thought, hey, maybe we can do Racing Destruction Set on the Super Nintendo. This game eventually morphed, because I actually got the source code for Racing Destruction Set. I pulled out my old Apple Atari 800 source code, and I went ahead and used that, converted it to run on the Super Nintendo, but then they wanted to do these new graphic modes and stuff like that, and that's what became RPM Racing. And RPM Racing was the game that I went ahead and had to reverse engineer the sound chip in the Super Nintendo, because back then Nintendo was just not giving out technology for how to program the sound chip. They wanted that all proprietary to Nintendo, but I reverse engineered it, make a sound driver, and then the game shipped. The game was mostly programmed, all the visuals and stuff was done by Silicon Synapses, which today is now known as Blizzard. And then a couple of years later, we wanted to revisit it with something more cuter, and that became Rock and Roll Racing. And Rock and Roll Racing came from the source code. We took the source code of RPM Racing and then changed the video image, changed the graphics, and then I had to add some code to the sound driver so it makes it so you can upload voice, because there was an announcer who was announcing. So that was the big change, and I had to do all that code. But anyways, that was the sort of tale reduced of my involvement with Rock and Roll Racing. Can you tell us a little bit more about the 3DO Blaster? Did that work well? Yeah, I loved it. It was a piece, it's an ISA card. You can see it right here. I'm pointing to it. But it's an ISA card for a PC. Now, most PCs don't have ISA slots anymore, so it's really hard to use my 3DO Blaster because I need to have an industrial board with an old port in it to run it. But what it does is that on the card is a 3DO. Literally, it's the hardware from a 3DO put on a card. Then there's a cable which goes to a Creative Labs CD player, which has to be a specific model, which I have like 5 of them. And using that, you can take a 3DO game, put it in your PC, it will then see it, and then switch the video, and you're now playing a 3DO game on your PC. Really, all it is just nothing more than a over-glamorized emulator, but done in hardware, because it doesn't use anything really from your PC other than just using your keyboard and joypad for input. But the machine is a 3DO, so it's playing 3DO games using 3DO hardware, using 3DO graphics, and displaying it on your monitor through 3DO video. But today, now you go ahead and I think it's called Fido or 4DO or something like that. Those emulators, which basically does the same thing, except you don't need hardware. So there you go. Let's see here. Chris Frantz writes, the first version of Halo I played on a mid-2009 MacBook Pro in 2017 running macOS El Capitan. How would you do that? Because that game, I thought, was written in PowerPC. When did they release that game? Because it was before 2005. See, does it have a copyright on this? They should say copyright something. It just says Halo, $49.95. Well, there's my price I paid for it. Gearbox Software. Here we go. System requirements, blah, blah, blah. Copyright 2003. So that would definitely be PowerPC. This is definitely Mac OS 9, maybe Mac OS 10, like 10.1, 10.2, but probably using Carbon. So the only way you're going to run that on a modern piece, on a modern Mac, is that you're either using an emulator or something like that. My first experience of Halo was a friend's house playing in an OG Xbox back in 04, then 06, then at a LAN party with the Watch community, now 910 Comics Forum. Aussies, we played Combat Evoldo. Fun. Okay. Neon Resin writes, I keep scanning your shelves looking for a voodoo card that can be hidden among stuff. Actually, my voodoo cards are in the closet over there. I have like about 6 of them. Anywhere from Voodoo 2, Voodoo 3, Voodoo 5500, Voodoo 5, a whole bunch of them. Unfortunately, only the more modern Voodoos I have actually work on PCI with modern machines. All the others are either ISA cards or AGP, because most of the AGP slots, nobody has those anymore. Everybody's gone to PCI X16. But I do have Voodoo cards, yes. And I even have Voodoo cards for my Mac. Heck, I even have up there a Sound Blaster Creative, the one above the System Saver GS. That Sound Blaster's for a Mac. And I have it's actually empty because I have a Mac Quicksilver down here that has the card in it. Macsoft did a Universal Binary updated at some point. I have it. Oh, cool. Halo Mac. PowerPC on Intel via Rosetta. or a binary patch. I'll have to be binary patch because PowerPC on Intel Rosetta 1. Rosetta 1 was up to macOS 10.6 with Snow Leopard. When they went to Lion 10.7, they removed Rosetta. I know because I have an Xserve with Snow Leopard on it intentionally, so I can build bot with PowerPC applications and stuff like that. And as much as I want to upgrade that Xserve to a higher version of macOS X, I can't because I need Rosetta for that machine. Hard to find a machine with ISA slots anymore. It was Universal Binary. Maybe they did a UB release because it was native code. Probably re-release. Glitchhard was writing, it's hard to find a machine with ISA slots anymore. Actually, you have to know where to look. They actually make brand new motherboards using modern CPUs with ISA slots, but these are sold in industrial control magazines or industrial control catalogs. Because I do manufacturing and stuff in the past, I'm on certain mailing lists and forums in which we talk about industrial controls. Like years ago, I did software for a disk duplication machine, so that you put a stack of floppies inside of it. It would then read the put the floppy in the drive, copy the disk, verify it, then spit it in a good pile, a bad pile, and you have to program all that with serial commands and stuff like that. I did that a long time ago. And since then, I've worked with industrial control programs and occasional side contracts once in a while, and I did printer drivers. But the thing is that it puts me into the world of industrial control, and what's hilarious, this is absolutely hilarious, there are factories out there all over the world that are using custom hardware that will allow them to control their robotic arms and stuff for their factories, but the card and the software hasn't been updated for 20 years. So they make a modern motherboard with ISA slots and PCI slots. The motherboards are expensive. They're usually about $300 to $500 each. And then you could use like an Intel i9 and so forth in there. And then they expect you, through their patches, install Windows XP or Windows 95. So then you can then run your glorious 20-year-old software on this modern CPU machine, so then you can go ahead and run whatever cutter you've been running for the past 20 years. And that's because, you know, the problem is that whoever made their equipment is gone, and nobody's going to come around and rewrite all their software and their hardware. So when the machine finally just dies of old age or something like that, or their floppy drives die, now they're saying, okay, great, we're going to take your floppy, put it on a little SD card, put it in a floppy emulator. I'm not kidding. That's what they're doing. And then they put a new motherboard and a new CPU and more memory in it, and then they're launching glorious Windows 95 so they can run their original software, and then they're back to the races. So, yeah, I mean, I actually saw some because I was seriously thinking that one of my projects in the near future is to buy one of these industrial control boards, which has ISA slots in it, and then, of course, an PCI X16, so for video, for, you know, probably put in a low-end video card, or maybe, you know, a Voodoo card. And then I would put into it the Sound Blaster, the 3DO Blaster, the PlayStation 1 dev kit, and the Dreamcast SCSI card. And I can use this machine to essentially run the dev kits for their appropriate machine, you know, software on a somewhat modern hardware to do development on it, just, you know, for shits and giggles. Alder Dragon writes, the school in my home still uses a C64 for their metal shop. Yep. I remember seeing somebody was using an Apple II to run their their automatic door. That's what someone says here. And like good examples, Industrial Light and Magic for both Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back and Star Wars The Return of the Jedi. A lot of their special effects were using an Apple II to control the camera. It's really amazing. They didn't do it for Star Wars because the Apple II hadn't been invented yet. Because, you know, they filmed Star Wars around 1976 and 1977. But the Apple II came out in 77. So when they made The Empire Strikes Back in 1980, That's when they got these brand new Apple IIs and used them to do camera controls. Let's see. Diablo writes, speaking of old hardware, I got my old Lenovo L520 with WinPro 64 on it back, and after grabbing update Wi-Fi drivers, I can play games up to Skyrim 2011 on it. Yay! My buddy got Windows 95 to run off a floppy somehow. Yeah, I think Windows 95, just the bare bones version, can actually run off of a floppy, but there's almost no built-in software other than the OS. Let's see, Dream Machine require a Hercules graphic card. Okay, it's time to find the Will Wheaton board. Anyways, it's almost an hour, so a topic that I only wanted to talk like 15 minutes for is dragged on to an hour thanks to this. But back to my original thing, so I can do in closing, is that reviews that are free, in which if the reviewer didn't pay for the game, be suspect of it. Influencers who are giving away keys or have some sort of a connection with the company, be suspect. And especially if you ever see people with the local magazines or organizations that are only in your town or your county, and they're giving out awards, the odds are astronomically high that these might as well be diploma mills or award mills. So therefore, it's like, especially if the person had to pay for it, if you paid for your award, that's not an award. That's basically, you're just patting yourself on the back for a job well done, hoping to say, "Senpai, notice me, please. Oh, I noticed myself." So, last question here. X-Proger writes, do you think the time will come when IP owners will bring old franchises to open source? That's an interesting topic that I may have to cover on another day. I was just recently working with another company. They sold a bunch of their IP to another company. And the condition of their source code was so bad that they had to bring me on for 2 weeks to go through all of their, and I'm not kidding, source safe databases. So it's like, okay, we saved off the source safe files, but we didn't actually save off the files that were in it. So, I mean, the output. So I had to first get the source safe repository, get it, find an old copy of source safe, find out that the admin account still has a password attached to it, crack it so I can then remove the password. Once that was done, then I was able to peruse the contents of the source safe database, and at that point then says, get latest version, got all the files out, and then I was able to zip that and send it to them saying, here's your darn game. Next time you archive, let's say, your Perforce repository, your source safe repository, your SVN repository, save the output too. So therefore, if you're only looking for the output, then you don't have some poor bitch having to reverse engineer or realize, they haven't made source safe 6.0D since 2003. So there you go. Anyways, take care, everybody, and I hope you have a really wonderful Indigenous Peoples Day.